this, you can be assured that there will be no quiz, but I am going to ask you to remember some of what Tom said because it applies to this house as well. I had a lot of fun researching this house, and I could just talk about it forever, but I tried to really condense what I'm going to say. In 1928, Frank S. Mitten and his wife, Mary, bought 2 lots of that rather new development of Crescent Heights, tract number 1982. This land was accessed by extensions of Monterey and Crescent Streets, and their street was Monterey B. This desirable location was advertised as having as its neighbors the Putnam, Sterling, and Burridge mansions, as well as Canyon Crest Park. Mission revival and Spanish colonial architecture was well established in Redlands, forming the style basis for this new home. The front facade features rough textured white stucco with diamond-shaped latticework flanking the front door. Yet more texture is provided by deep window embrasures. A broad flaring chimney extends all the way to the ground. The thick walls are surmounted by a low-pitched roof of half-barrel red clay tiles. California living was further enhanced by a large walled courtyard at the rear of the house, adjoining the covered patio that runs almost the length of the house. On one side of the house is an oversized picture window with a pointed arch overlooking the San Bernardino Valley. All of the original windows are framed in dark wood. Some beams are also seen in slight horizontal projection under the roofline. This house has been well loved by each of its 3 owners. This house has been well loved by each of the 3 owners. They have all benefited by the attention to detail that Mr. Mitten demonstrated in planning his house. It is said that he sat on the crest of his property over a period of time to determine where to place the windows to best catch the breezes. He also chose such quality details as copper gutters and downspouts. His lots number 110 and 111, that refer back to Tom's map, were among the first sold by Mr. Cochran when he subdivided his 36 acres into 142 building lots. The terrain is hilly, and several levels are bolstered by stone walls to form separate areas for landscaping. In 1929, the house was completed, and Mary and Frank S. shared their house with their unmarried 26-year-old son, Frank J. All 3 were involved in running the Mittens Lunch Restaurant and Ice Cream Fountain on State Street. Mary continued with it even after her husband's death in 1942. This is a vintage picture. It probably looked very much like this when it was completed in 1929. Although this picture was probably taken in about 1949 or 50 by the new owners. But you can see it's just an absence of new foliage, but there's still tall trees there and the original configuration of the lot and street. I know, some of you have been wondering, is this the Mittens? I think it is, and yes, you're right. By then, their son had formed his own business. In the early 1930s, young Frank J. liked to tinker after hours with an idea that he had for 3D advertising letters that could be reused and rearranged. These were at first pin-backed of a ceramic mix. These are collectible. You can find them on eBay, and there's articles written about them because they became really a standard of the industry. Eventually, these became popular with movie makers for titles, as well as for many other uses, and were produced in many fonts and sizes. This manufacturing business became a multi-million-dollar enterprise and was carried out in the now renovated Mitten Building on 5th Street. So that became the factory location, and do I talk about it? The business then was run from both Redlands and New York City. And since he was coming back to Redlands, he built an apartment into that building complex for his use while he was in town. Now we have his mother eventually moved, so in the 1940s, this Monterey B house was ready to be sold. The second owners were the Fallon family, who resided there for over 50 years. They loved the house and made very few changes. You can see what it looked like I'm sure you've heard that there was a huge snow in 1949 in Redlands, and look at their cactus and their roof all white with the snow there.
We got out of school for 3 days.
Woohoo! The Fallons loved their house and made very few changes. More bathrooms were desirable, however, and laundry facilities were built on a lower back level. The city renamed the street and standardized the numbering system, so in 1951, William, Helen, and Joyce Fallon's house was now listed as 1321 La Arriba Drive. Several features of the house were enjoyed by the whole neighborhood. This extensive bricked courtyard was the scene of many parties. Also used for this purpose was the large 2-car garage that was integrated into the front of the house, atypical for 1929. Daughter Joyce remembers the preparation of the floor to make a great dance space in the 1950s and 60s. So the house that Tom was talking about is just diagonal to this house. They're just really within spitting distance of each other. And you can see what a difference it is when 2 lots were purchased and a custom home was built exactly to the specifications that the owner wanted. I think that double-car garage is really something different. Another way the neighborhood children shared in the amenities of the house was to peer through the large living room window to watch one of the neighborhood's first televisions. This is what you would see through the window. In early days, a large radio was behind these red doors. But from the 1950s until today, this early TV has been installed. Mrs. Fallon happily lived with the old-fashioned elements of her house even after her husband's death in 1962. She remained there until shortly before she died in 2001. The current owners, Jonathan and Michelle Beatty, were thrilled to find the property available and actively sought to purchase it. They were drawn by the open-beamed living room with its slatted wood ceiling and its arched doorways. The 85-year-old details, such as this kitchen tile, were still in place and greatly appreciated. The bathroom tile, I guess in the upper left is the bathroom tile. And you can also see the original laundry chute and a little razor blade disposal function there. Also present are some of the original light fixtures and the old style plaster. Not many of us have doorbell chimes and a telephone niche like this, but all of which have been lovingly maintained. Since being purchased in 2001, native drought-resistant plants placed there by the Beatties have joined the original cactus found on this 15,000 square foot property. Tall deodars provide welcome shade. While the Beatties and their teenage daughter follow active, contemporary schedules, they have shown their respect for their past and have been careful guardians of a unique Redlands home. The Redlands Area Historical Society is pleased to present them with the 2014 Heritage Award.